In the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40k, the Chaos Space Marine Legions are the ultimate embodiment of betrayal and corruption. Once noble warriors of the Emperor, they fell to the dark powers of chaos, turning their backs on the Imperium in favor of destruction, power, and immortality. From the brutal World Eaters and the ruthless Night Lords to the sorcerous Thousand Sons and the perfection-obsessed Emperor's children, each legion has its own twisted path and goals. Join me as we explore every single Chaos Space Marine Legion, delving into their origins, their fall to chaos, and their eternal war against the Imperium. Today we will talk about every single Chaos Space Marine Legion explained. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. The Black Legion, the Hares of Horus. The Black Legion is the most powerful and infamous of all Traitor Legions, formerly known as the Luna Wolves. Following the death of Horus during the Siege of Terra, the survivors of his legion were left leaderless and fragmented. Abaddon, Horus' most trusted warlord, took control and reforged them into the Black Legion, shedding their old name and fully embracing the power of Chaos Undivided. The Black Legion operates from the Eye of Terror, launching devastating Black Crusades against the Imperium. Their forces consist of Chaos Marines from all legions, as well as mutants, cultists, and demonic entities. They are known for their versatility, fielding a mix of elite warriors, demonic sorcery, and brutal siege warfare. 2. The World Eaters, the Butchers of the Battlefield. Originally the XII Legion, the World Eaters were savage warriors even before they fell to chaos. Their primarch, Angren, was a slave gladiator who despised the Emperor for preventing his death alongside his fellow slaves. The Legion was known for its brutal close combat tactics and widespread use of the Butcher's Nails, a cybernetic implant that drove them into uncontrollable rage. After swearing allegiance to Khorne, the World Eaters fully embraced slaughter and bloodshed, devolving into a berserk horde of frenzied killers. They no longer function as a unified legion, but instead form massive warbands known as Blood Legions, each seeking endless battle in Khorne's name. Their forces consist of Khorne berserkers, daemon engines, and hordes of frenzied cultists. 3. The Emperor's Children, the Degenerate Perfectionists. The Emperor's children were once obsessed with perfection in all things, from combat to artistry. However, their pursuit of excellence led them to the embrace of Slaanesh, the dark prince of excess. Their fall was marked by hedonism, madness, and the infamous massacre on Istvan V. Now, the Emperor's children are infamous for their sonic weaponry, narcotic-fueled warriors, and unholy excesses. Noise Marines form the backbone of their warbands, wielding devastating sonic blasters that can liquefy enemies with sound waves. Many of their warriors undergo extreme body modifications to better experience the sensations of battle. 4. The Death Guard, the Unstoppable Plague-Bearers. Once the XIV Legion, the Death Guard were known for their resilience and endurance. They were among the most formidable loyalist forces until their primarch Mortarion led them into the embrace of Nurgle during the Horus Heresy. The Death Guard are now bloated, disease-ridden monsters, nearly impervious to pain and injury. Their Plague Marines carry diseases that can rot flesh and armor alike, and their ranks include massive, daemon-infested war machines such as Plagueburst crawlers and footed bloat drones. They fight in relentless, grinding assaults, overwhelming foes with waves of toxic filth. 5. The Thousand Sons, the Sorcerers of Tzeentch. Once, the Thousand Sons were one of the most learned and enlightened legions of the Great Crusade, priding themselves on their mastery of the warp and their relentless pursuit of knowledge. Clad in crimson and gold, they were not merely warriors but scholars, librarians, and philosophers, led by the brilliant and enigmatic primarch, Magnus the Red. However, their deep reliance on psychic power was their undoing, drawing suspicion and fear from the Emperor and the other legions. The Council of Nicaea and the Fall of Prospero. As the Great Crusade raged across the galaxy, the Emperor convened the Council of Nicaea, where he forbade the use of psychic abilities among the legions, effectively neutering the Thousand Sons' greatest strength. Despite their loyalty, Magnus defied this decree, believing his powers were vital to humanity's survival. His greatest act of hubris was his attempt to warn the Emperor of Horus' treachery through a psychic projection, shattering the wards of the Imperial Palace and inadvertently damaging the Emperor's Wedway project. As punishment, the Emperor dispatched the Space Wolves, led by Lemon Russ, to Prospero under the pretense of bringing Magnus to heel. However, Horus, already fallen to chaos, manipulated Russ into believing that the Thousand Sons were to be exterminated. The result was the burning of Prospero, a massacre where the Space Wolves reduced the Thousand Sons' homeworld to rubble, slaying thousands of scholars, warriors, and civilians alike. The pact with Tinch and the Rubric of Aramin. In desperation, Magnus made a fateful bargain with Tinch, the Changer of Ways, pledging himself and his legion to chaos. The surviving Thousand Sons were scattered across the warp, eventually arriving on the sorceress daemon world of Sortiarius, also known as the Planet of the Sorcerers. There, they continued their studies of the warp, embracing their new demonic patron. However, the Legion was not without its own internal conflicts. Many of its warriors began to mutate uncontrollably due to the corrupting touch of chaos. In an effort to halt the rampant mutations, Aramin, the Legion's chief librarian, enacted the infamous Rubric of Aramin, an immensely powerful spell that purged the mutations, but at a terrible cost. The vast majority of the Legion's Space Marines were reduced to mindless Rubric Marines, their souls burned away and their bodies turned to dust within their power armor. Only the most potent sorcerers survived intact, forever cursed yet more powerful than ever. 6. The Night Lords, the Terror Bringers. The Night Lords are the embodiment of terror, cruelty, and chaos. Once the Emperor's brutal executioners, their role in the Great Crusade was to enforce imperial law with ruthless efficiency. Their legacy was marked by their ability to instill fear in the hearts of their enemies and their mastery of psychological warfare. However, the Night Lords' fall to chaos was a product of their Primarch's twisted vision and the tragic flaws in their nature. The story of the Night Lords is intrinsically tied to Conrad Kurz, their deeply troubled Primarch. Born on the planet of Nightside, Kurz grew up in an environment of darkness, violence, and corruption. He was raised as a figurehead of justice, but his psyche was shattered by the brutal injustices and corruptions of the people he was destined to lead. Kurz became a nihilist, believing that the Imperium, and even the Emperor himself, were doomed to absolute tyranny. Kurz's tragic flaw was his belief that the only way to stop the inevitable corruption of humanity was through unrelenting violence and terror. He saw the Emperor's desire for order and unity as inherently flawed, knowing that his vision for the future of mankind could never come to fruition without absolute control. While the Emperor sought to create a utopian galaxy through the Great Crusade, Kurz was convinced that humanity needed to be kept in check by brutal means. This would ultimately lead him to embrace the worship of Chaos Undivided. His conversion to chaos was not a pursuit of power, but a deep conviction that chaos was the only force capable of tearing down the Imperium's foundation and revealing the inherent evil at its core. The Night Lords initially fought for the Emperor during the Great Crusade. However, it was their brutal methods and Kurz's nihilistic views that led to a growing conflict with the Emperor. The Legion's penchant for brutal punishment, executions, and draconian tactics made them invaluable during the Imperium's wars, but their approach also alienated them from other loyalist factions. When the Horus Heresy began, Kurz's obsession with predicting the fall of the Imperium made him more susceptible to the whispers of chaos. As Horus rebelled, Kurz's legion followed suit, driven by the belief that the galaxy needed to be shattered to prevent the rise of a totalitarian state under the Emperor. They turned on their former allies and began committing atrocities in the name of chaos. 7. The Iron Warriors, the masters of siege warfare. The Iron Warriors are one of the most relentless and enduring of the Traitor Legions, driven by a deep hatred for the Emperor and his Imperium. As the XIV Legion, the Iron Warriors were the premier siege specialists of the Great Crusade. Perturabo, their brooding and resentful primarch, was obsessed with perfecting the art of war, particularly in the construction of fortresses and the art of siegecraft. While the Iron Warriors were undeniably skilled in warfare, their genius went largely unrecognized by the Emperor. This lack of appreciation, combined with the Emperor's preferential treatment of the Imperial Fists, another legion of siege specialists, led to a simmering resentment within Perturabo and his warriors. The pivotal moment that marked their fall was during the Horus Heresy, when Perturabo and his legion turned against the Emperor. Feeling the weight of his rejection and the brutal nature of the heresy, the Iron Warriors were present at some of the most brutal and infamous battles of the heresy, such as the Siege of Terra. Though they fought for Horus and their hatred of the Imperium, Perturabo's legion had a growing affinity for chaos, drawn to its promises of ultimate power and the freedom to express their hatred through destructive warfare. Following the collapse of Horus Rebellion, Perturabo embraced chaos, and his legion began to embody the very essence of brutal, unyielding siege warfare. They were awarded with the favor of Chaos Undivided, a reflection of their varied but constant thirst for vengeance and destruction. The Iron Warriors remained true to their heritage, refining their tactics around siege warfare and mechanized devastation. Unlike other Traitor Legions that rely on massed infantry or demonic forces, the Iron Warriors preferred to use their genius to create unbreakable fortifications and devastating war machines. 8. The Word-Bearers, the fanatical prophets of chaos. The Word-Bearers were the XVI Legion of the original 20 Space Marine legions created by the Emperor, unlike their brother legions, which viewed war as a means to expand the Imperium. The Word-Bearers saw conquest as a holy crusade. Their primarch, Lorgar Aurelian, was a deeply spiritual figure who sought to venerate the Emperor as a god. Under his leadership, the Word-Bearers established massive cathedrals and devoted entire worlds to worshiping the master of mankind. However, the Emperor was furious at this devotion, declaring that he was not a god and ordering Lorgar to cease his religious zealotry. To reinforce this lesson, the Emperor sent his Ultramarines to destroy Monarchia, a holy city built in his honor. Forced to kneel in the ashes of his greatest work, Lorgar was humiliated and enraged. This act shattered his faith in the Emperor and opened his heart to chaos. Seeking new gods to worship, Lorgar and his most trusted advisors, Erebus and Corpharon, began delving into forbidden knowledge. They eventually discovered the true gods of the warp, the Chaos Gods, and pledged their allegiance to them. Unlike other Traitor Legions, the Word-Bearers did not fall to chaos during the Horus Heresy. They orchestrated it. It was Erebus, first chaplain of the Word-Bearers, who manipulated events to corrupt Horus Lupercal, War Master of the Imperium. Using a warp-tainted weapon, Erebus orchestrated the events leading to Horus' fall on Davanites, where the War Master was mortally wounded and saved through the intervention of chaos. This act set the stage for the greatest betrayal in human history, the Horus Heresy. The Word-Bearers fully embraced chaos, openly worshipping the dark gods and spreading their faith to other legions. During the heresy, they unleashed unspeakable horrors upon the Imperium, including the infamous massacre on Calth, where they led a surprise attack against the Ultramarines and turned the entire Viridian system into a demonic-infested war zone. Following the betrayal at Calth, the Word-Bearers launched a campaign known as the Shadow Crusade, a coordinated assault alongside the World Eaters. This warpath saw entire star systems burned, billions sacrificed in blood rituals, and massive warp rifts opened to unleash Daemon legions upon real space. One of the most significant acts of the Shadow Crusade was the transformation of the Word-Bearers themselves. Through dark rituals, the Legion infused itself with warp energy, binding daemons to their own warriors. This process gave birth to the first possessed Marines, warriors who merged their bodies with demonic entities for increased power, but at the cost of their souls. After the failure of the heresy and the death of Horus at the hands of the Emperor, the word-bearers retreated into the Eye of Terror, where they became one of the most powerful and numerous of the Chaos Space Marine factions. Unlike other Traitor Legions, which fractured into warbands, the word-bearers remained unified under their dark faith. Though Lorgar himself withdrew into isolation, either meditating in the warp or seeking higher enlightenment, the Dark Council of powerful Dark Apostles, led by figures like Erebus and Corferin, continued to lead the Legion. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.